There are those times when things are challenging and you got to pray and you got to discern what is the right thing for you to do. You got to pray for strength and wisdom and understanding and love, and that presence and power is right there to provide it. One of the central ideas in unity is that God is the one presence and one power in the universe. And in my life, there's no place that God is not. So it's not a matter, is God going to guide me or not? It's a question of how receptive I am to that presence. Because God is always there. That's what the great saints and sages and Jesus the Christ have told us, that God is always present. I am with you always. We got to remember that. Back in September, I've been dating this lady for 7 years. And back in September, we decided it was time to stop. And it was a very challenging decision and so on. And we're still great friends. It's not just a cliche, we really are. And there have been times where I wondered, was that really the best decision for us? And there's been times also where, because I really love being single. Anybody else like being single? Yeah, oh my, a lot of enthusiasm out there. I love my personal space, I love not trying to coordinate when are we going to get together and how come we haven't talked recently and when are we going to talk next, and do you care more about your friends than you care about, all that stuff that goes on. And if you're in a committed relationship, I pray for you. No, it's a blessing for sure. But it requires it's got to be a priority, you know what I mean? And I have a lot of things that I do and work on and love doing, and I just love my solitude, and I love that. But sometimes I wonder, Justin, this is a little kind of weird how much you like being with yourself. And sometimes there's the fear of dying alone. You ever have that fear? Wonder about that? Dying alone. And I think that may be, we like people too. I got lots of friends and I love being with people, but I love that solitude also. But that fear of being alone and coming to, the end of your life. Because I'm pretty healthy. And I plan to, I don't know if all my friends and loved ones are going to make it to be 100. And so people look for relationships. And there are statistics that say people who are in relationships are healthier, they live longer, and all that stuff. But what I think the science may miss is that a relationship with yourself and with your God is a relationship. Right? And that is always with us. I think the idea of having to find somebody who's going to fulfill you is erroneous.
Preach.
Somebody agrees with me. It's erroneous. And I love those movies. I love the romantic comedies. I love those. I love when Captain Wentworth leaves a note to Anne and she's reading the Anne in the Persuasion, Jane Austen. And you complete me. Nobody's going to complete you. That's true, right? They might complete you for the first month. Maybe the first year or two, you feel complete. You can't get your work done. You can't think straight. But boy, you are happier in that relationship, right? You're walking on cloud 9. And then the hormones shift. Right? I mean, that's what happens. Psychologists talk about, in the beginning, there's passionate love. Passionate love. And you just think about them all the time. And then what happens is, at some point, for some of us it happens sooner than others, it becomes companionate love. Companionate love. That same excitement. You know, some people are able to stay there, I guess, but for most, it doesn't happen. And people think something's wrong with their relationship because, well, I'm not as excited as I used to be. There must be something wrong. Nothing's wrong. That's how it happens. Evolution said, we got to get y'all real excited about each other in order to procreate and create more of you. You know, and then once that happens, we got to make sure you guys are stable and loving and can interact with each other so that we can raise those kids for the next 18 to nowadays 35 years. You know, companionate love, that's what happens. But nobody can give you and make you whole. I mean, I love those moments, you complete me. But I also want to vomit a little bit when I... The only thing that's going to complete you is you. The higher you. The higher power that is inside of you. That's what's going to complete us. As the late Eric Butterworth said many years ago, it changed my life, that people don't give you love. Love is not an object that I can take and put inside of you. What people do is they create an environment in which you can relax and experience the love that's already inside of you. You feel comfortable enough to be you, to let love be you. There's only one love, God's love, and it flows through wonderful mothers and aunts and grandmothers and grandfathers and dads and friends and family and all people. But there's only one love, and that love is expressing as you and as me. And I believe that the greatest love, we remember a wonderful singer from the past, the greatest love is perhaps self-love. Not love for your ego, not love that says, well, aren't you a pretty little thing when you look in the mirror? That's good too, but that's surface level. You know, I think there's a place for that. But how are you towards yourself? How are you towards yourself? I think it's very important that we learn to be kind to ourselves. We learn to... I mean, after all, I remember when I was in ministerial school back in 1991 to 1993. And I remember thinking how critical I was of myself. Anybody critical of themselves? Sometimes we're more critical of ourselves than we are other people. But it's important to remember, Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I believe it's true. We can only give what we have. If you got a nickel, how much can you give somebody else? And if we have a lot of self-criticism and self-contempt going on, how are you going to feel the love of God? Because love flows through you. If you're beating yourself up all the time, how are you going to become aware of that presence of love that is inside of you? I believe you block it when you do that. You don't have to reach a point where you are so down and out that you open up to the love of God. No. God is everywhere present. God is within you now. You can experience the love of God in good times and in bad times. So being kind to yourself. I had a friend not long ago, she bumped her toe, and I heard her in the other room talking, oh, my poor toe, are you all right? And I said, what if you talk to your emotional self and your mind the way you just talk to your body? She said, oh yeah, that's true. So what difference would that make in your life? Do you talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. The more love and compassion you have for yourself, the more understanding you have for yourself, the more you encourage yourself, guess what? The more you can encourage other people. And I believe some of the highest self-love we can have is where we're able to observe ourselves non-judgmentally. To be able to stand back and look at what are you thinking, look back, what are you feeling, look back and be able to see how you're behaving and be able to observe it without judgment. Of course, you're going to try to be your best self, but criticizing, judging, getting angry, it was an insight to me to realize I can still grow without being critical of myself. That I can love myself and still grow to become my best self. That in fact, if I get all critical and judgmental of myself and angry and condemning of myself, I may actually block my growth. Because when you get real upset about how could I have done that, why did I say, there's a point for that. But then once you learn and you decide, what can I learn from this? You apologize, you do what you need to do. It's time to move on. Guilt is not necessary at that point. Learning to be more accepting of ourselves. When you have certain thoughts, you have certain feelings, you behave, you can relax, and lift up your mind, whether it's with an affirmation, whether it's thinking about something that makes you feel good. Lift yourself up, because that's the level that spirit is on. Spirit is on a high vibration, right? God is joy, God is love, God is peace. That's the vibration in which spirit lives. The kingdom of heaven. He said the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is in hand. And we have the ability to lift ourselves up. So don't pull yourself down. Lift yourself up. Experience time in daily prayer and meditation where you can feel the love that is always there, the everlasting love. Learn to nurture yourself, to encourage yourself, to be kind and compassionate to yourself. So then when your neighbor does something that might normally annoy or frustrate or anger you, you might have more compassion. When somebody cuts me off on the road, there may be a little bit of annoyance there. There might even be a word that might come out of my mouth. But then I catch myself. I say, well, have you ever cut anyone off, Justin? Yes. All right. Then some compassion and love comes in there. Loving yourself, which is the love of God within you. Learning to observe your thoughts, your feelings, your behavior allows the love that you are to flow. Not criticism, not condemnation, not self-judgment. And then lastly, he said, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. These are the two commandments. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. What does that mean, with all of your strength? To me, that means learning to be aware of the presence of God as much as possible. Not just on Sunday morning, not just when you're listening or watching your favorite preacher or whatever podcast, but every moment of the day. It's the moments that count. It's the moments, it's the seconds, it's the minutes. That's what counts. And so every moment of the day can be an opportunity for us to cultivate that awareness of the presence. Reminding ourselves, trying to listen to God when someone's talking to us, hearing God speak through them, hearing God speaking through nature. This is what great saints and sages talk about. learning to hear God talk to you through the trees and the birds and the bees and through people. And talking to God in your daily life. You know, anybody ever talk to yourself? Sometimes I talk to myself. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with somebody and then I'll find myself continuing the conversation. They're not even there. Here's what I would have said. You know, here's what I meant. And then I remind myself, Justin, don't waste your time having a conversation with somebody who's not there. Talk to God. God, this is what I would have said. This is what I meant, Spirit. When you're taking the dishes out of the dishwasher, you can do it with God. When you're preparing breakfast, you can do it with God. When you're reading the newspaper or reading it online, you can do it with God. Lord, I don't know what they're doing over there in that country right now, but we bless them, God. We send them love. When you're standing waiting on a bus or the subway, stand there with God. When you're sitting on the subway and you're looking around and you're seeing other people on the subway, you're not just seeing a bunch of different people who are so different from you. You're looking at an image of God sitting right next to you and across from you. It doesn't mean you're going to go home and have tea with them. They may not be ready for that. They may not have the same consciousness you have. You know, just like you don't want to get in a cage with a lion. Some people can get in a cage with a lion, and that lion will lay down like a kitty cat. But I don't recommend it. Remembering God, 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 God is everywhere present. And for me, that's my answer, where I have had those thoughts of, well, what if I'm alone? You know what? There's no guarantee, even if you're in a relationship, you're not going to be alone in those last moments. That person may die. Your partner, your loved one may die. Your partner or loved one, if you're in a nursing home, they may find somebody else. They may not visit you as much as you would like them to visit. You know, you just don't know. But you know what? One thing we can know, and that's why it's important to cultivate that relationship now, is that relationship with Spirit, that relationship with God, because God is, lo, I am with you always. Lo, I am with you always. My beloved stepfather, Henry, who I knew since I was a baby, basically, and my mom and him got married when I was around 6. And we were really good friends. And when he, because he could no longer stand, we had to put him in a nursing home. And it was so touching. He was such a person of gratitude. He would thank everybody, you know, thank you. They would do stuff for him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And after he passed away, I was walking down the hallway to go get his stuff. And one of the ladies, one of the nurses there, she saw me and she started to break down crying. This woman was in love with Henry. She was like, who is going to tell me now that I'm beautiful? And I thought, see, that's what happens when you are in that spirit of love, of gratitude, aware of the presence of God. Wherever you are, you express love and you receive love. You express love and you receive love. And when you know that I and the Father are one, when you know that God's love and joy and peace are pouring itself in me, and you can feel that peace, and you can feel that love, and you have cultivated a practice where you can see it. Don't wait. Don't wait till that last moment. Cultivate it now. When Gandhi was, right before his shooter shot Gandhi, because he had cultivated that awareness of God, his last moments were his name for God. Ram, 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 right before the man pulled the trigger. Cultivate that experience now. Develop that love that is always with you. You know, with a little turn of the phrase, love always, that beautiful romantic comedy, which was my mom's favorite movie. Love always. Well, the key really is to recognize and know that there is always love, and it's with you, around you, and within you.